Okay, I'll start showing my screen straight away, I hope. Yeah, wow, what a lot of variety from many physics degrees. It's just, hang on, have I shared this? I keep hearing a lot of people saying they've done physics degrees, and just goes to show the sort of variety of ways that people can go through studying physics. So yeah, last talk then. I'm Hazel Hung. So I'm Business Development Manager of the CPE project. And my background is in photonics, to do with light. So photonics has come such a long way in the last sort of 10, 20 years. If you think about it, light, the photon, is so incredibly integrated into our lives through photonics technology. You know, we can play with and manipulate light in infinite number of ways. You know, we can create artificial light to help us read when it's dark, and we've got screens and cameras on our smartphones, fiber communications giving us the internet, there's robotics and automation in manufacturing. So all of this photonics technology underpinning our daily lives. And that's what I'm really passionate about. And so how did I end up here? How did I end up in the field of photonics? So to do that, we've got to take us all the way back to school. For me, both my parents emigrated from Hong Kong. You know, they worked really hard, frugally saving money for mine and my sister's education. I was sent to private school, an all-girls school, so there was no distraction from boys then. And maybe that was a good thing in the end, because, you know, there was nothing to say, oh, you know, you can't be interested, you know, girls shouldn't be interested in science and all that kind of thing. So, you know, for me, my path was very simply do your GCSEs, do your A-levels, and then go to university. And that was sort of the done thing. You know, I didn't really know any different, and I just went with the flow. And my choice then was to decide what to study and where at university. And for me, there were three main driving factors that led me to choose a STEM subject, which I've mentioned before is physics. So my family, my teachers, and then core to that is interest and intrigue. My dad is an electrical engineer. My sister also was studying electrical engineering at the time. I didn't really know what electrical engineering was, but what I did know was that I liked science subjects at school. It made sense to me. And I remember my physics teacher demonstrating the principle of the photoelectric effect at school. And he was doing some mad thing where he would jump up and down from a lab bench throwing these balls. And it's just sort of stuck with me to this day. And so learning about these elementary particles was something just so strange and intriguing to me that I just wanted to learn more and study physics at university. But I opted to do a year in industry first, before then at a company called Kinetic, they were DERA at the time. After that, then I went on to study a four-year master's at Imperial College. And actually, that's where I discovered that particle physics wasn't for me after all. You know, it wasn't about cute particles. You know, there was quite a bit of maths involved, and so you know, I still enjoyed the rest of the course. I did some summer placements at Kinetic, and I did a bit of work with lasers and fibers, and that world sort of stuck with me. And graduating from uni, I knew that actually I really wanted to do a PhD and be a doctor. But if anyone calls me doctor today, I sort of cringe. But I really wanted to sort of specialise, do some R&D and specialise in something. So this sort of formed the foundation of this little seedling that started off my career in STEM. And by the way, this bit is extracurricular activity was quite important to me, as I was president of the Origami Society at Imperial College. I started off as the, you know, handing out tea, and I progressed my way up to president, so I'm quite proud of that. But yeah, all the way through this process, there have been these little bugs that have keeping me going or holding me back, and where these feelings of anxiety and self-doubt come from, I don't really know. You know, I know it was from a young age, and from external influences, and maybe partly inherent personality as well. But you know, from what we've heard of today, like Yang Hao saying that you know, proving people wrong, that really resonated with me. You know, being quite small, quite petite, and looking really young when I was in my 20s, people saying, oh, I look like a teenager. that kind of thing really sort of irked me and wanted me to prove people wrong, that I could do this, you know, I could do things and be useful. And also somebody else said today, yeah, don't overthink as well. I think that's one of the things that I'm even now, you know, very, I do overthink a lot, but, you know, gradually over the years, I've built on my self-confidence, I've pushed myself, and I've got a great network of friends and family, and that's really important, I think. And I do carry some of those pests with me today, if you like. They sort of keep me in check, though. I think of it as my sort of ecosystem that represents me, keeping with that analogy. But yeah, so my PhD years, this I think marks the start of my career. So before I had a PhD place confirmed, I visited the ORC, the Optoelectronics Research Centre at Southampton University. So I had a PhD interview there, and they had several projects on offer. But there was one that really interested me, and it was to do with shaping mid-infrared laser pulses. You know, I've not really done anything like that before, but just seeing the optical setup, you know, it took up the entire lab, and every element on the bench had an important role to play. And at the heart of this was a thing called an optical parametric oscillator, an OPO, and that converts near infrared light to mid-infrared light. And you have to very carefully align this cavity in order to achieve this mid-infrared light. Now you can't see infrared light by eye, but the crystal within the OPO, it generates this tiny amount of green light. So if you can imagine, I'm sat in this very quiet, darkened lab on my own, you know, squinting, looking for this green light to help me align the cavity. And you know, when you've hit that sweet spot, when the whole cavity just sort of glows with light, it like sings, ah, and all these other colors come shining out, and you can see on this picture here where I put a prism there to split the light up, and you can see the different colors that are generated. And these colors, they're just a byproduct of the OPO. What you're after is the mid-infrared, but you know, these pretty colors just sort of kept me going for 4 years in this darkened lab. And then after my PhD, a spin-out company from the ORC was looking for an R&D engineer, and they wanted someone to help them develop an OBO system. So that was pretty much perfect for me. The company called Cohesion had 5 employees, including myself, and for me, being in a startup company it was a great way to get involved in as many different things as possible. So I did start off doing R&D, and then I noticed that the data sheets, they looked a bit plain. So I gave all the data sheets and flyers a consistent branding. I also got involved with sales and was actually quite surprised how much I enjoyed that. I liked the customer facing aspect. So I was able to help advise researchers and academics across the world on what to buy. So everything in this job was fantastic. You know, there was a young dynamic team, a chance to travel to San Francisco and eat sushi. And then some deep-rooted human instinct kicked in, and I was ready to have babies. And so began mum life. I had a beautiful baby boy, which meant much sleep deprivation, but also tea and biscuits and play dates with my mum friends for about 9 months of maternity leave. I went back to work at Cohesion only to discover that I was pregnant with baby number 2. And not only that, my husband had been offered a lectureship position at Swansea University. So bearing in mind I was at Southampton at this time, I didn't have a clue where Swansea was or what Wales was like. And the thought of having to leave my support network of mums behind, it was just awful. And but you know, we couldn't turn the job down, and we just had to move. And actually it turns out having a small baby and a toddler, it's a really good way to make new friends. And as you can see from this picture, that we do really love it here in Swansea. We're just spoilt for the number of beaches. It's a great place to grow up kids, for kids to grow up, sorry. So yeah, we moved with a 6-week-old baby, and then another year of maternity passed with baby groups and play dates. And then I decided that I really needed to get back to work. And so, yeah, finding a job, I think, was quite tricky. You know, being in a new area, I didn't really understand the job, the sort of landscape here, what opportunities would be available in optics and photonics. But luckily I found this company called Lux CSI near Bridgend, and they were looking for an R&D engineer. So I worked on an Innovate UK grant with them in collaboration with the university and a few other companies as well. So Lux TSI, what they do is standardized testing of LED lighting. And for me, actually, working there was literally a light bulb moment. So everything I knew about light had gone out of the window. So with lasers, which was, well, that was my world, light is just always goes in the same direction. It's very well behaved most of the time. But with LEDs in the world of lighting, it just sort of scatters everywhere. And when you're talking about white light, then it's all about perception and how our eyes perceive the light. So this whole link to biology just sort of left me perplexed. But it's actually fascinating to be able to fully appreciate the household LED light bulb. For those of you who don't know, white LEDs are made of a blue LED and then a yellow phosphor on top. So if you look at your smartphone, on the back, you'll see like a little yellow dot where the flashlight is, and that's the yellow phosphor. So you get a blue light and a yellow light, which we perceive as white light, just as you would get white light from a red, green and blue pixels on the display on your phone or your laptop. But unfortunately, my role at Lux TSI came to an end, and I was back job hunting again. And I'd been looking for a job for a good few months, sort of floating around at home, not knowing what to do with myself. And then one day, my friend, who's the CTO of Cohesion, sent me a message, and he told me that he randomly bumped into an old colleague at a conference in Germany, Professor Nigel Kopner at the University of South Wales. And he happened to mention that he was looking for, he had a photonics related role available. So I got in touch and applied. And at first, I wasn't really sure if I could be a business development manager. It's not really a type of role that I'd done before, but it's turned out to be, a pretty much perfect fit for me. I'm using my knowledge of photonics from over 10 years in the photonics industry. I'm pulling on my customer-facing skills from Cohesion, and I did a bit of project management at Lux TSI. And so I've been able to build on those skills as well as, having the privilege of traveling around Wales and seeing this beautiful country, seeing my CP colleagues at the different universities, visiting companies and factories, and just the opportunity to speak to different people from different companies, micro businesses, SMEs, or even funded programs like those that we've heard from today. It's just been, honestly, it's been such an eye-opener for me, and only goes to show what Wales has to offer in innovation across such a broad spectrum of industries. So yeah, I think that's it from me about my career so far as a woman in STEM. Thank you for listening, and if anyone wants to get in touch or connect with me on LinkedIn, then there are my details. Thank you.